Whatever. We don't have time for an interesting intro. Roll that music. Let's get going. Welcome to episode 6 of The Bucket.
I don't have as much hair this week to rock out with.
Very
Let
true,
it all
very
out.
true.
I like
All right.
it.
Hello,
I'm
fellas.
jealous.
Yep.
Good morning and afternoon. Simon, how was your week?
Yeah. It's been good. We got a new coffee machine. Our coffee machine broke down. It was doing this thing where it was just squirting water out of the bottom. Which every time you make a coffee, there's just like hot water going everywhere. Just like, well, I probably should fix this and not just go buy a new one. But we just went and bought a new one.
Is this like an espresso machine or a
Yeah.
regular drip coffee machine?
A Nespresso. The
Okay.
little pods, you know.
So you had some pressure
The
involved too.
George
It was-
Clooney machine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Very nice. Okay. So
I've
new
been-
coffee
but
machine.
The thing with it was, we went to the store. We were like, my wife was, I've seen this machine I really like. I'm like, what brand is it? And I'll go and figure it out. And she goes, it's Nespresso. And I'm like, yeah, but which manufacturer, She couldn't tell me. I was like, okay, we'll just go. If there's one in the store, we'll go and we'll have a look at it in the store. And she's like, they'll let us try it and everything. I was like, I don't think they'll just let us try any machine, but well, let's go. We can have a. So we go, and then we're there for like an hour with this coffee machine, just staring at it, waiting for people to come and help us out. And she's like, this is definitely the one that I want, but I want it in white. And it's got this little milk frother thing on the side. And it was just like, yeah, cool. It's reasonably priced, it's like, cool, let's go for it. The saleswoman did an exceptionally good job. She convinced us, instead of paying for the machine outright, get the Nespresso subscription and get yourself like billions and billions of little pods of coffee every single month. So now that's what we're doing. So we like tied into this 2-year contract now for Nespresso pods, and the machine was basically free. I think like paid $50 for the first set of coffee and got the machine to go. So it was like, I think a bit of a deal, but
How much is that monthly for coffee? So you buy the subscription and you get the machine for free, right? So how much would you have spent on?
$50 a month?
Okay.
I don't think I would spend that much on coffee every month at the moment. But I am now, so I gotta make it worthwhile.
Is coffee like an actually enjoyed beverage for you guys, or is it just a source of caffeine?
No, we like. I mean, we're not. What's the right word? I don't want to make anybody like upset. There are some people who really, really enjoy good coffee, and they take it to like
right here.
Yeah,
guys, I roast my own coffee at my house.
I grow my own beans. Yeah,
I'm not surprised.
We have considered getting a coffee tree as well. Yes.
I would actually really like to try it. I'm not going to lie, but I'm not at the level where that's the amount of time that I've got to like wait for my coffee in the morning. And I
go
just
out there, pluck fresh beans, get going. No,
but I respect that. I've got some really good friends, and they're massively into coffee. And every time we go to their house, they're trying a different coffee, and I'm like, this is really nice, but I just don't have time for that.
Yeah.
So the pods
that's
are
unfortunate.
Quite good.
This is making me sad because I am a coffee guy.
Sorry.
And so, man, it's just once you open up your world to good beans that are not pre-ground, you should be grinding your own beans, and then a good brewing method. It's good stuff. So I'm curious. I'm 1 second, Shane. I'm curious. Out of all of the Nespresso pods that you're getting, how many of them are flavored?
All of them.
Exactly.
I don't think you can get Nespresso pods that aren't.
Yeah, the actual coffee itself is just kind of meh. It's like the leftovers from Starbucks or something, probably. I don't really like Starbucks either. I call it Charbucks because it's roasted way too dark. But Whenever you have to add a whole bunch of artificial flavorings to your coffee, then to me something's up. What were you going to say, Shane? What were you going to say?
I am actually about to go the other direction than Simon on coffee. My Russian girlfriend never had even seen a Keurig machine. And so I'm like making coffee. I'm like, it's so convenient. It's so easy. You just put it in, you hit this. She does she's got a kettle and she's got a French
Yes.
press. And
Okay. Now we're talking.
she doesn't grind her own, but she does have a grinder. And I do have a dark mode bag of coffee that I bought a few months ago, like right
Cool.
around the time of Laracon from the and so I'm like, yeah, I should get a grinder for that. And then I'm like, oh, then I've got to get the K cup, the whatever, where you can just put your own beans into it. And then it's like, I go and I spend, my coffee of choice has been Cafe Bucello. It's a very strong espresso style, Colombian espresso style. I usually just drink it black. She's turned me on to Cafe con Leche, and so I've got $100 Keurig. I got it earlier this year. It works fine, but it's like for as much as I'm spending, I don't know. It's like I really actually kind of enjoy the. Well, first of all, I haven't grinded my own beans in a while, but I do enjoy like the action of doing it. I like the smell. I like the experience, and for me, it's like, if I can just like hit a button, turn on the water, pour it over, and then just pour myself a cup, and I'm saving money, and it's better coffee than Keurig, in my opinion. Everybody's different on that, but I don't know. I think I'm going to go the other way. I think I've been spending $600 a year on coffee for many years, and it's like, I think I'll save some money now. I think we're going to sell the Keurig and then bring her kettle over here and go that way.
That's
all right.
We'll see.
All right.
Stay tuned.
I still think I'm saving money, just to be clear, because previously to this, when we were in London, you'd be going down to the like bakery on the corner that also did coffee, and it was a really, really good coffee. I mean, really good, but that would be like $5-6 a time.
Yeah.
So 2 of those, maybe every day of the week. It's like that adds up.
Yeah.
No matter what, you're saving money on that proposition.
Yeah. So I see this as like I'm getting slightly better coffee than I was getting before, and I'm not getting hot water squirted out all over the kitchen. So
when you first said you've got water dripping from the bottom of the machine, I'm like, isn't that how all coffee machines work? Is it?
Very good. Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah. Technically, it's not the place where you want water coming out. Is the detail there that I maybe missed.
Well, yeah. Maybe. One of these days, I'll roast you some coffee. I'll ship it to the Canary Islands. It'll be $20 to get the import fees, but it'll be worth it. And I'll have to send a grinder with it, I guess.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean,
this is getting complicated.
I'm not going to let you grind my beans. I'm going to grind my own beans. Thank you very much.
It'll be more expensive than his microphone.
Yeah. I could just see Simon like walking to the little local coffee shop and just like, hey, I have these beans from a friend of mine, but I really need you to grind them. Do you mind doing that for me?
In Spanish as well.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, man. Okay. All right.
Do I also walk like Pingu? Yeah, that was good. That was a good impression.
Oh,
great.
How was your like work week? I'm glad the coffee's situated. How was the work week?
Thanks. Yeah, it's been good. So actually on Monday, I deployed a big part of a client project that I've been working on for maybe a month or 6 weeks. Like not just what I've been working on. There's a small team of us, but that kind of whole chunk of work has now kind of gone to production, which I hate it when it's like that length of time for a big piece of work to all go to production in one go. I'm trying to like slowly get towards releasing smaller chunks more often, but it's early days and they want to try and do a lot in a short period of time, so it's fine. But that went live. And that's very cool because it then means that I can move on and do the next stuff that I kind of been waiting to move on to. So um,
Can you
right
give
now
us
I'm
any specifics of what the feature was or who the client was or anything? Or
yeah, I
is
can
that a
talk about
no-go?
it. So no, I can talk about it. So the company is RealFlow.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working with them for a few months now, and the product is really cool. And we've been building out this dashboard, so like customer facing interface to go and do the thing that you can do with the product, which I think just generally the approach that we've taken with building this thing out has been really good. And I've enjoyed it a lot because the focus of the team has been on just doing what's absolutely necessary to get something in front of people and get like the core piece of the product working. And
Right.
that hasn't been like you've got to have a customer facing dashboard. You haven't got to have like login, registration, payment. We haven't got any of that stuff yet, which is kind of wild because most people will think, oh, I'm building a SaaS. Let's get all of those things out of the way first. Let's get our starter kit and then I don't have to think about those things. Or I'm using this tool or that package and I'm building all of those things early so that they're ready for when I need them. And it's like, well, actually, the thing that you need is the product that works to solve whatever the customer problem is that you're trying to solve, and to prove that to people and to sell that to people. So we've
Right.
gone that way around. And it turns out that you can just like do a lot of that stuff manually if you've got, the headspace and the extra sets of hands to do it. And we're a small team, so there's like 5, 6 of us now, which is quite cool. So we've been able to do a lot of it manually, but obviously, as time rolls on, more and more people come on board. You then start to need some of that stuff to be self-serve, and that's where we're kind of getting ahead of that curve a little bit now. Now that we've got time and capacity to do it, so finally building a dashboard.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Can you give us like the 30-second overview of what RealFlow does? What is this value proposition?
Oh, I'll try. I'm not really. Yeah. So it's a video platform for B2B. So
Oh, okay.
basically, B2B websites are kind of notoriously rubbish. A lot of them, and I'm sort of like very broadly B2B, like any B2B.
Right.
Um, you can find some really good ones, but you will find a lot of really poor quality sites. The content's really dry. The the sales pitch isn't really very strong, and they're not doing anything major to differentiate themselves in their niche, and against their competition. And video is like this huge thing that's like been growing for years and years, but still the B2B space is really struggling to use it. So we're trying to like bring that to them,
Okay.
kind of kicking and screaming into the 21st century, basically.
Nice. Cool. Cool.
Should be
All
good.
right. Anything else you want to touch on from the work week? That's really cool.
I'm doing a lot of stuff with AWS at the moment, which I'm not enjoying.
What are you doing and what don't you enjoy? I love
I
AWS.
knew you would pipe up on that.
Thank you.
One of the things that I've been doing and not enjoying is watching Shane's old videos about how to set up AWS.
What don't you enjoy about that? I made those very entertaining, actually.
The videos are very good and very helpful. It's just there's so much configuration, and I've been fighting with is it Cloud? Oh, I can't even remember what they call it. Cloud
Formation?
Stack, Cloud Formation. Is that their thing? That's AWS's thing.
Well, that's one of them. Yeah. There's CloudFront,
Yeah, exactly.
CloudFormation.
There's like a
You're
million.
talking about creating
The-
infrastructure with
It's like their Terraform, but not
yes.
Terraform.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
Cloud
they have
formation.
Terraform also, which is
Yeah.
that's also them.
So someone had set all of this up because I'm just definitely not in the AWS space at all, and someone else had kind of set all of this stuff up, and I'm now trying to understand it, and it's complicated. So yeah, I'm sort of picking it up and trying to run with it and bumping into stuff and trying lots of things and being
Learning.
semi-successful, learning exactly a lot along the way. But it's also like this knowledge that I'm like, do I really need this? Laravel Cloud's coming out in a couple of months, and I'm basically going to push all of my clients and my own projects onto that more than likely. So, yeah, I don't know. Let's see. But it's good. It's powerful. But I'm not bought into configuring all of this stuff. That's not what I want my job to be.
Are you going to be using any AWS services that are beyond the kind of typical, like, I got my EC2 instances, I've got my database, I've got SQS? Are you like tapping into any of their like, proprietary and like very specific services for any of this, like, I don't know, video processing or anything like that?
Not yet,
Okay.
but maybe in the future, yeah.
I don't even know what those are. I feel like they offer a bunch of these kind of very specialized services that you can try to do. What are they calling it these days? Like infrastructure as a service, or it's like, products can puzzle piece a lot of these various things that AWS offers. And like that is now your tech stack. It's not you trying to manually figure out how you would do this stuff yourself. You can just pay AWS to figure out how to do a lot of it. But I don't know if that applies here. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many products on that platform. I don't even know all of what's available. I think that's one of the hardest things. So I guess I'm going to discover all of that over the next few months.
And this is why Vercel and Laravel Cloud make money.
Yeah.
There's so I got to a point 5 or 6 years ago where I just thought, first of all, I kind of liked going into, you get the notification from Forge every once in a while, like, don't forget to whitelist these IPs. And so it's like, what even is that? What do you mean? You know what I mean? And so going into, and I use AWS server. I used to do DigitalOcean for everything. It was like $5 for a little droplet and whatever, and I don't have to think about it. But then I got to the point where I was like, I think that I can benefit myself and future clients by understanding and learning at least some high level basics of AWS, because it's clearly one of the, if not the, front runner of compared to Google and Azure, et cetera. I mean, most of the large companies or the biggest whatever it is, they're huge. They're a huge player. A lot of people go for them more than everything else. And I thought, even just to have the understanding of how networking is done and how security is handled, and just different testing things out. I went to, there was a website called acloud.guru. And I think either they got bought or they bought someone. They bought a few people. I think they bought somebody else. I think it's still acloud.guru. Saying that, I think they got bought by somebody, but you can still go to the website. But there's all sorts of different certifications you can get with AWS or whoever. They do all sorts. They do for Azure and everybody else too. But like the preliminary one was cloud practitioner is what it's called, and it's just a very high level. This is how you can create auto scaling groups and spin up EC2s and run a script if you get to a certain threshold of CPU usage, and how to set up your different users and what kind of user is even allowed to do that. Not a user like a person in the console, but using, what I mean? All that kind of stuff. And so I went through that and I passed the test, and I got that a while ago. They expire after 2 years, so I didn't renew it, but it was, thank you. But it was enough to get me to, like, when I hear somebody struggling with AWS, now it's like, let me help. Let me, like it's not, and it's like, not even like I want to get in and do something for you. I want you to see that this is not actually that hard, and it's very powerful stuff, and the things that you can do with just a little bit. I mean, I probably spent like 3 or 4 weeks studying and learning and going through the videos and just practicing some stuff. Not even on a full-time basis. It was like, because I had a regular job to do at the time. And so I would encourage a lot of people, this is not paid, we should be getting paid to say acloud.guru on the internet. You heard that? So yeah, all 3 listeners, right?
Quick, Shane, plug our email.
It's in the description on YouTube. I don't even know what
Perfect.
it is. No,
Oh,
it's
man.
the Bucket
Skibbity do
Podcast
Ohio.
S3
At Gmail.
skibbity.ohio@gmail. Yeah. Jeez.
Sorry.
Oh, that slaps. No cap. Okay.
So,
Man.
yeah, I'm very pro AWS. I'm very pro like understanding at least general understanding of what things are, right? The underlying stuff. And who knows? You take that and you run with it. You create the next Laravel cloud kind of platform or Vercel, or I mean, there's the future
Yeah.
is you don't know how long the future can be. It can be very long, and
Infinite.
things can come and go, and you can be part of that. So
I just wish I
There's-
knew you a couple years ago, because with Backer Club, I was spending $1,000 a month to have an agency, like a staff augmentation team, run our AWS infrastructure for us. And so I was like, I mean, eventually it got to the point where it was just unnecessary. I knew enough and it wasn't critical, so I could kind of drop that cost, but should have known you. I should have known
one
you.
of the things that they test you on in the cloud practitioner. So one of the whole modules of getting that certification is being able to, at least this is the way it was a few years ago, is to accurately estimate somebody's cost. So if they come to you and then it's not even like, I want this EC2 and I want two of them and I want this and this and this. It is, here's the problem. What is the most cost efficient way to organize their infrastructure for them? And so going into the billing and taking you can go, their tools are so great. You can go as deep as you want to and see exactly what's costing, how much money, and when it spikes, and fail safes and watchers, so that I get billing alarms every time I cross a threshold every month, and it's usually around the same date. So I set it where I know I'm going to, I'm going to hit my threshold every month. I always do that, and it's in dollars spent, and I always do it around like the 20th to the 22nd of the month. So if I do it a little earlier, then I know that there's a little bit more work going on, or if it's later, then things are kind of slow. So you can really organize your life, your developer life, well with these tools, if you think about it.
Okay, nice. Well,
I'm coming to
Simon,
you.
if you have any other questions about RealFlow, I guess Shane is your.
Yeah.
I just
Too late now,
voluntold
man.
Shane to
I'm
help.
busy.
So,
I'm busy now.
Yeah, it's like you didn't ask me to begin with, so screw you.
no rescues for friends. Okay.
Not if you're really
Awesome.
good friends. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Shane, how was your week?
Good, I think. Yeah, it was not very not a lot of new stuff going on. I've been working, and I do have permission to mention Craig's name. Craig Anderson is
Awesome.
he's my dude. We've been working
The
together and collaborating, and he has just a plethora. Is that maybe
Mhm.
not the right choice? I know it's a word, but is that the right word for this? He has a lot of projects,
An
and so
abundance.
hopping around that's a more descriptive word for this case. Yeah, it's been cool because it kind of feeds into my ADD a little bit, which I don't know. I have not diagnosed. That's just how I feel. Like I'm always doing three things. I'll be at the gym, walking on the treadmill, watching a YouTube video, and playing solitaire on the screen simultaneously. Because if not, I'm too bored to just sit there and walk and stare out a window. So like I have to be doing multiple things. So it's nice I can hop around from thing to thing to thing. But then I also feel like, because it's been so long, I guess, since I've had more full-time hours, like things in my home are starting to get backlogged. And so trying to figure out that balance. And the cool thing with Craig is that he understands, he's open, he doesn't care. He's not expecting me to do 50 hours or 40 or 30. It's just like you do what you can do. And now we do have some projects coming up that are going to take some more time, but I feel like we're growing together in that. So, yeah, not much really. My head's been down and working on stuff. I did hit 100 days of learning Russian on Duolingo the other day. That was
Congrats.
Wow.
that was kind of cool. My icon changed.
Can you
So
give
I
us
got
a
a new
phrase?
God,
Putting you on the spot, buddy. What's that 100 days
man.
got you?
Oh,
Hi, my name is
yeah.
Shane.
It's interesting because I have 6 years of Spanish in school. I went to Mexico. I went to Guatemala for a couple of weeks missions trips when I was younger. I did a lot of door-to-door sales in Orlando when I was younger, and everything before today was when I was younger. So I should just remove that phrase. Right. So like my Spanish is pretty good, but I always tell people in Spanish, like if you speak people that speak Spanish, I can't hear for whatever reason. I cannot hear what they're saying as well. I can read it, I can write it, I can speak it. So I'm like, if you just try to speak as much English as you can, or just slow down, we can converse. And I'm noticing that I'm the other way with Russian. I could hear really well. And it's not that it's not the other way. It's just that for whatever reason, the way that I'm learning this, I can hear the Russian and I can understand the phrase. And before my brain can actually even translate it, I'm like understanding it on a Russian, I guess, level. So
Do you
what
think
can
that's
I say?
Duolingo and the way it does it?
I don't know. Because once you start learning a language or learning using these apps and looking for like what's the best way to learn this language or whatever, then all these ads start popping up, and so there's a lot of like naysayers. All these other ads are running against Duolingo to say if you're doing flashcard based or this, gamifying it, then you're not really achieving, you're not really learning. And how long term is your memory for the gamification? You'll remember the badge you got, but you don't know how to say good morning. Dobre utro, by the way, in Russian. Dobre utro.
There we go. We got at least one phrase in.
Spokojnej noche. That's good night. And "Ja ciebie lubię." I love you. "Ja ciebie lubię."
Same to you, buddy.
Ooh, that's better than German. Ich liebe dich.
Yes. That's what. Jeez. Anyway,
We have a little bit of an inside joke because my wife has been doing Italian Duolingo for a while now. I think she's over a year streak.
Wow.
And at the beginning, we were joking a little bit because what Duolingo has you learn initially isn't directly valuable to real life scenarios, like whenever you were actually going to Italy. And so we had this inside joke where at the beginning, one of the phrases that she learned, putting together multiple concepts, was "Io sono una farfalla," which is "I am a butterfly." And so it was just like, it just wound up being one of these silly things where it's like, if you learned something or it like wasn't actually all that valuable, we would just throw in there "Io sono una farfalla." It's like, why is Duolingo having me learn that? It's not like, where is the bathroom? How do I get a coffee in Italy? It's, we went to Rome and it was just screaming "Io sono una farfalla" everywhere.
That's hilarious. And it's very accurate. I mean, the sentences they have you start with are not, they don't make any sense.
Yeah.
So that's funny.
Mm-hmm. All right,
Io
cool.
sono farfalla.
Did you get any flying in this past week?
Nope.
No
Nope.
flying.
I've
Okay.
been working. And when I did my last flight, I actually forgot there's a little device that I have that it looks like a little iPod, kind of very thick though. It's $500 for this device, and it attaches to the window when you're flying. It picks up ADS-B frequencies, so there's different kinds of towers and frequencies. And if you go up to 3,000 feet, you don't have cell phone service generally. So to get traffic and weather while you're flying can be a chore or impossible unless you have something like this that connects to these towers specifically designed to transmit traffic and weather. And I left my device in the plane, so I got a call the next day from one of the CFI certified flight instructors that, "Hey, did you leave this here?" And I said, "Oh," and it's like a good half an hour away to that airport. And so I haven't gone back to pick it up. And I'm like, if I'm going to do it, I may as well take a flight while I'm there. So I should get my night currency and go up at night. But it's just finding the time and with the kids and the work. And, I sound like a middle-aged dude now, don't I? Oh man, those work and kids and real life problems. I don't have the right excuses to do the things I love and whatever. So it's been over a week that it's hopefully still sitting there in the lost and found. They didn't write my name on it or anything, so I've got to get up there at least to get it. So I probably will do a night flight in this coming week.
Okay. So we're
Cool.
going to have a new weekly segment. What did Shane leave behind so he can go flying again? in
My
parentheses.
sanity.
That's actually not a bad idea. Like, as one of those how to create a habit, right? Maybe I should leave something expensive at the gym.
There you go.
But I haven't got anything that I really want that badly.
Your new podcasting microphone.
There you go.
New coffee machine, maybe.
Yeah.
Hey!
This month's supply of pods.
Yeah. Oh,
That's good.
podcast.
Ooh.
Yeah. Sorry.
Perfect. All right, Shane. Does that wrap up your weekly update?
Yes. How about you, Steven? How was your week?
Oh man. Okay. So I'll be quick about this one because I don't like complaining too much. But let me tell you, sinus infection plus daylight savings time change with little ones that have no concept of what the time is very difficult. We had gone into such a good routine with the kids. We were going to bed at 8, getting up at 7. Everything was glorious. And then Sunday rolled around, and all of a sudden my days became like waking up at 5:30. They're out of bed at 6. And like, and then you're like sinus infection on top of it, had no voice. Like, yeah, Sunday, Monday. But I did get some good stuff done. I think I have finally figured out how to do a few things with GitHub apps. I don't know if you guys have ever done any of that type of stuff before, like as Laravel developers, or if you've used Socialite, the concept of doing GitHub OAuth for user authentication and authorization is fairly common. But for what we're trying to do with Papercuts, we need an actual Papercuts GitHub app that an organization can install into their GitHub account, which then provides like org-wide access to certain resources that the Papercuts, application can get to. And so it was just, man, what's up?
What is Papercuts?
Oh, Papercuts. So that's this thing I've been trying to help the Thunk dev guys, like John, Daniel, Josh, those guys. Papercuts, I think, is kind of this little project that John in particular has been spearheading. And its goal is to be sort of like a project management and task management software for sane people. So it's to try to help probably less technical people describe a problem that they're having or a feature that they would like to see, but structuring the UI and the entire UX flows for how you handle a lot of this in a way that promotes good project management processes and communicates all of this in a way that the developers can then, like really understand what the underlying thing is and deliver a good solution. And so, anyways, it's not like cool. In production quite yet, but you could go to papercuts.io to check that out. And so, like one of the major holdups that they have to actually getting this into some beta users and some companies that would like to use it is a GitHub integration. So the ability for you to define a problem in Papercuts and then tell the system, hey, I actually have an issue in a GitHub repository and I want to link it to this Papercuts problem so that as the developers are doing stuff on GitHub and the issue is moving through its processes, its statuses, Papercuts can be aware of that. Or to even just define a problem in Papercuts and then tell GitHub to immediately make an issue for that particular problem without leaving the Papercuts UI. And so, a GitHub app, I think, is the way that we're going to need to do all of that. And man, just the documentation around it is, it's just a lot. And kind of confusing. And there's not a whole lot of like videos or tutorials or anything that I could find online to try to help me figure out these multiple tiers of access tokens that are involved, what installations are. But now I think I have a lot of it figured out, kind of wired up a rough prototype for us to play around with. And I think we've run into a little bit of just a hold up, and John will need to decide how he wants to handle a particular UI UX dilemma that is involved here. But once we have that figured out, I think we'll be good to go. So I did that.
Cool.
I actually worked a little bit on our projects for Lara devs. So hopefully in the next little bit, I'd have something I can hand over to you, Simon, to just, start a little bit of a discussion there.
Woo.
And I'm still really excited about that. I think that's going to be good.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have
I just feel left
Ollie's. Sorry, Shane. Well,
No,
you're
no,
the
no.
AWS guy. We don't really want to hang
Yeah,
out
you
with
already
You'll come
had
to me
your
when you have
thing.
real problems.
Oh,
You need real
I love
solutions.
it.
You know.
Okay, we're hitting a groove now.
I'm gonna go serverless, baby.
Okay.
We've
We
got
can handle
Ollie's third birthday party on Saturday, so trying to prep for all of that, making pizza dough, all sorts of stuff, trying to figure that out. So, yeah, that's been my week. It's been cool. I would really like for us
Nice.
to talk about Nightwatch at this point. So, we just had Laracon AU. Jess Archer did a fantastic job demoing Nightwatch. We've already had a previous episode where we had a little bit of speculation around this product. It's officially, we got to see the UI. Absolutely amazing looking UI, by the way. Fantastic. So yeah, Simon, can I get your initial thoughts on this?
Oh man, I have a lot of initial thoughts, but like you said, UI is amazing. I think Jess and kind of the team, behind getting that demo together did an incredible job. Because on the one hand, like the UI just looks really thoughtfully like carved out.
Mm-hmm.
It had everything for a start, which was like, what? This is incredible. But it wasn't just like it looks like it has everything. She literally went in, drilled into all of the bits, and it really looked like it was live and real data. So, maybe I'm jumping to conclusions there, but if it's not live, they did a really good demo. If it is live, they've done a really good job building the product so far, which is incredible. But the thing that got me about it was not so much like it looks slick and there's the information density is like at the right kind of level, proportionality of different kind of bits of information in different representations were good, but just how like rapid the UI felt. She was just like clicking here and there, like she knows what she's going to do next, and she clicks on this thing and then it just appears and then it just loads, and it was like, yeah, okay, the system's not under like any real load. Maybe it was just a demo, but like if it's anything like that in production, that is going to be incredible. So I'm kind of really looking forward to that, because my experience with these kind of performance monitoring systems and log aggregation software is that they're clunky and they're slow and they're all got different UIs, and it would be nice to have something that's really well built and thoughtfully prepared for everything, and it's tied to Laravel and it just takes care of it all. So I'm super excited and I cannot wait to get my hands on it, because I will put this to use immediately and it's going to save me, I don't know what, a ton of time and a ton of effort. So I think it's going to be worth every penny.
Nice. I agree. Shane, what do you think?
I got a message from Jason Beggs the other night. He's like, "So what do you?" Oh, I got to do it in his voice.
Yeah, you got to do the voice.
Like, hey, so what do you think of that Nightwatch?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was just a text, so the voice didn't actually exist, but it does in my mind, right?
It does.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, I forgot. And so I went right immediately to the YouTube live stream and I rewound it. And
I forgot.
Well, I didn't forget. I was busy working. Hey. So, yeah. So, so first of all, Jess Archer what a brain. Oh my God.
Mm.
She is super organized and super, like, she just got done doing the whole, what was it called? Oh my God. Uh, Not Telescope, the other one, the other thing that just came out
Pulse.
not long ago. Pulse. Thank
Mm.
you.
Yeah.
And like to take that and turn it into this, like, because it's similar, right? But to turn it into this paid app that is SaaS app, whatever. Um, and I'm, as I'm watching it, I'm like, what? How do you build this? Like, there's so much really cool. Like, where does this data live? How is it reported? Where is it reporting back to? How are they I always think of like their infrastructure. How is the data organized for them on their side, right, to report back to us on, so that we can see this stuff. So it was just like to see, another Laravel, a great mind inside of Laravel, and just feeling the pride that, watching Laravel grow for the last 12 13 years that I've been in the community, to see it come to another amazing looking, amazing, a very necessary, application. And then my brain starts thinking of like, well, what about Sentry? What about, because they
Yeah.
just partnered with Laravel Forge, and
Mm.
their Sentry is now this first party kind of, there's some kind of deal there where they're promoting it, and you can directly link up to it. So maybe that got Taylor thinking of, well, why don't we have our own? And then it's like, well, what can we do that they can't? And it's like, well, we can make this for Laravel apps specifically, not that you can install it into a Laravel app and it can be reporting some of your Laravel stuff or most of your Laravel stuff. But when she started like scoping some of the requests per user, it was like, this is cool. Seeing like which jobs are being queued, and at what time and where in the request did this happen, and what line of code. Like, you maybe could get some of that or most of that in something like Sentry or Bug Snag or whatever somehow. But I mean, the fact that this is a first party proprietary Laravel traffic monitoring tool, it's like, and they've only just begun, and it looks like, I think Taylor even said that when he came back in, like, this is not an MVP. We have
Mm.
blood, sweat, and tears into every pixel, into every action, and every UX um, component to this. And it's like, yeah, and it really shows. And so to see, like, just imagine what this is going to be like in a year or two or five, and
Yeah.
where, what else, what other apps, what's next for Laravel? Like,
They peaked.
no, I don't think so. I would have thought that 5 or more years ago too.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah.
no, they're only just begun, right? The 57
Mm.
million just hit the bank account, right? And they've already gone off and running with this. So I'm sure Taylor's already got ideas for a number of apps that he's thought about for a long time. And so it's cool. It's cool to be part of this. It's cool to be riding this wave. And the fact that we're already Laravel developers and we know the benefit, we can sell it to our clients. Uh, and we can easily get it installed into applications and understand the benefit directly, puts us in a really good spot too as Laravel developers.
Yeah. Yeah. I fully agree. I really like that, you know, so many of the new things we've been seeing with Laravel is bolstering this underlying framework, right? That has always been trying to go from zero to good production app as easily as possible,
Mm.
and extending it into the entire requirements of actually hosting, monitoring a production app, a serious production app. And so whenever, like, the thing that kind of clicked to me whenever I saw Nightwatch is just combining it, especially with Laravel Cloud, it's yet another reason for serious apps to get involved with Laravel.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of these things that I'd like to get your guys' opinion on at some point, but I feel like Rails. Rails has a lot of really big names that have been built on it, right?
Mm.
I mean, even like GitHub and Stripe and Kickstarter, and these are,
Shopify.
yeah, I mean, like massive, massive, massive applications. And I just feel like I don't see that as much with Laravel. And I'm really excited because I do think that with all of this stuff that's kind of coming together, we're just going to see more serious consideration going into Laravel as a viable option for the next multi-million-dollar app idea. I think that'll be really cool, especially for us that work on these
Yeah,
things. So I really, really
totally.
liked it. I'm curious what Nightwatch in particular, how they're handling the transfer of the required data into their system from a Laravel app and what that will mean for any sort of performance concerns. I would imagine they're probably tapping into the new defer stuff so that, if they're having to transmit a large payload off to Nightwatch all the time, it's going to be happening after the response has already been sent. But I am just kind of curious, man, there's just so much data there that's having to go into an OLAP database, I'm assuming. It's just getting, streamed in there. So much data that I'll be curious to see what that kind of does, like your standard Laravel app and its compute requirements or anything like that. But I'm sure it won't be super significant, but super, super cool. Anything else on Nightwatch? Oh, actually, yes, I did have one. And this was something I think I saw on Reddit from you, Simon. And it was you mentioning that what are some of the privacy concerns, because it appeared that you might be able to drill down to individual users, seeing email addresses and stuff like that. And for certain situations, will there be a way to anonymize that
Mask.
portion? What
Yeah.
what can you expand on that for us, for the audience?
Yeah, so I think it's really important with these tools, especially when you get to like outside of the US or more specifically in Europe and other countries where um, legislation kind of makes this a lot more important for businesses to consider, like what data is going there, how long does it live there, what can the person who kind of really owns that data do with that, how much oversight do they have of that. And businesses are sort of required to provide all of this in their terms of service, their privacy policies, and not just say that they do this stuff, but also provide tooling to enable people to like get their data anonymized or out of the system entirely. So it will become, if it's not already on their radar, a requirement if they want to grow the product out to other territories. So I mean, it would be good from my point of view to start understanding that, what their kind of thinking on that is, and whether they've done anything that far yet. I can see, like, on the one hand, I'm very much like, this is a great product. It's going to be great. The tool's perfect. Like, I can see this just fitting really nicely into everything I'm doing. I'm all for it. But then reality kind of bites and it just says, okay, well, I am in Europe, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the clients I have are in the UK as well, and it's just an extra consideration that we have around all of that. And some people might not like that. I think Ian Landsman is quite open, vocal about the stuff that the EU does that's perhaps not so great from a US business's perspective. But honestly, we're used to it. We don't mind it. We just need to know how to deal with it. So it's either you give us like the full heads up. What can we do? What can we expect to be able to do so we can write it into the legal copy that we've got to have, or you give us the tooling to shut that stuff off and you make it like fully anonymized, but without hamstringing the product. I still want the benefits of being able to drill down to a user. I just don't want their personal data, IP addresses, email addresses in that other product. So um, yeah, I would just like to see something about that. It doesn't even need to be solved right now, but
Yeah.
that would be good.
Shane, did you have a response from there?
This is more just a general statement for GDPR, which is what I'm assuming you're talking about, Simon.
It's one of the things, but yeah.
So I worked for a very large organization when GDPR was rolling out, and I was kind of like whistleblowing for like 6 months. Like, we need to address this ASAP,
Yeah.
and we didn't. Not my decision until like the day before GDPR was like going into effect, and so we met with lawyers, and I met with lawyers directly and talked
Wow.
about the law and the legislation. And Most people, I think, in the United States don't realize that if they are building a website where any citizen of the EU can access their website, then you must enforce GDPR regardless. If all of your clients and all of your demographics and everybody that you are servicing with your website, if your server is inside of the United States, it doesn't matter if people can access it from the EU. In fact, it even goes a step further. If a European, an EU citizen in the United States can access your site, then you have to follow GDPR. It's literally every website must have GDPR enforced. So it's like, oh, that's a European thing. Yes, it is, but you can still get sued or pay the penalties or whatever it is if you don't comply. So just a general disclaimer, you can talk to your own attorneys, anybody listening, and look at all this stuff. It's very scary stuff. It can be very scary stuff. The fines are not trivial. It's like 4% of your gross revenue for the year, or $20 million, whichever is greater, is what some of the phrasing is on these things. So take a look at it. Be cautious, and yeah. So there you go.
Dang.
Anyone who's listening to this who doesn't already know about that,
Shat their pants and turned us off and went on Google.
Say, yeah,
They're asking
they're not
Chat
listening anymore.
GPT.
Ostrich head back into my sand.
Yep.
Get out.
Yeah, all that.
Sure.
So I think it is scary if you look at it just like that. But the reality, like I've always looked at it through the lens of it's been about protecting consumers, right? And protecting consumers' data. And that's real people. And what we've seen over the years where tech has been able to kind of run wild is that data has been used in all sorts of ways that people never would have agreed to if they were given the choice up front. They would have just said, oh, hell no, Facebook, I'm not going to let you do that with my data and sell it to all these, politicized organizations or whatever for their benefit. And it's trying to redress some of that now and prevent it from happening again. And it's happening in the US as well. There's equivalents, although they're maybe not the same exactly, to GDPR I don't know the names of all the different laws, but different states are starting to bring some of these things in to sort of rein in the tech companies and all of that. But the reality is you won't just get like an enforcer from the EU, head GDPR office, just go 20 million fine, there you go. They'll come to you and go, what are you doing? We need to audit your systems. Yep. It looks like you're not doing it kind of properly. Like you should be doing it properly. Please do it properly. And if you don't do it properly by this point in time, then you're going to get a fine. So it's not like, usually it's not on the spot stuff. You do have time to sort that out. And you can guarantee that there's still going to be people using it without the right wording. I'm talking about Nightwatch specifically, but using tools like that without the right compliance in terms of wording and tooling, and the data's going in there and people don't know, and all of this. So, it's not there to try and catch people out. It's to make sure that they do it the right way and comply. But obviously there are some players that will just go, oh, we're going to do it anyway. Screw you and your crazy European laws. So then I kind of feel like, well, you deserve to be thumped for that, I'm afraid.
And it's really not that difficult. This is what the requirement is for us as developers. What do we need to implement? We need to be able to provide an Excel, CSV, whatever, a file to any individual user that shows all of the data that we have collected. We need to provide a way for them to be able to you have so many days to comply, but you could just like give them a button that will show every table that has user ID, their user ID, and what data is stored there, right? And then another thing, to be able to delete their data from your servers. Mm-hmm. Now, how do you prove that it's not there? It's like the people that are, they get the DoorDash and they like, I didn't get a DoorDash. It's not here. Like, well, you need to prove that it's not there. Like, here's a picture of my door without a bag of food sitting in front of it. Right. So, to the best of my knowledge, that is like, if not everything, that is almost everything that you need to provide. A way for them to remove their data and a way for them to see what data you've collected.
Yeah.
Disclaimer: this is not legal advice.
Yeah.
It actually absolutely is. I
am a lawyer as well as a pilot and a software engineer and a sound engineer.
I've thought about it. Why not?
Yeah, of course you have. You're learning Russian. So
Yeah.
the thing, the thing is, you don't have to delete all of the data, right? So there's a lot of data that you'll collect in a product that's not personal data, but it is tied to a user. It's tied to the user record, like, so you can tie their personal information with the non-personal information. You call it PII, right? Personally identifiable information, and non-PII. So the non-PII stuff, you're okay to keep if you can prove that it's anonymized and there's no way to turn it back to finding out who the user was from that data. This is a really
vague.
like, well, it is and it isn't. There's like ways to deal with that. So because the last company that I was working for as an employee was like in the medical space, we had to take this even further. Like there's HIPAA, which is like another level of like data compliance, and other like EU regulations around medical data as well. And we just took the view of like, we're going to build the system that we're building, our whole API platform, so that all user data that's non-PII is fully anonymized from the off. And we just have this way to like connect it in the system so we can pull the user's data when we've got the user's record. But as soon as we wipe that user's record, it fully is like disconnected and impossible to reconnect back to their non-PII data. It took me a little while to like think through this problem. I was working with my boss at the time, the CTO of the business at the time. We kind of worked through this, and it's sort of interlocking serialized mechanism that just means that, the ID that we use for that user kind of seeds the IDs for the non-PII stuff. And it ended up being really, in my view, elegant solution because our system could continue to operate. We didn't have to pull tons of records out and kind of destroy the research and development work we were doing against that data. But we still complied with the GDPR and all of the other stuff that required anonymization. So there's always ways and means of doing it, and they don't always have to be super complicated, but you do have to like properly understand the legislation and the requirements and work with some smart people who know what they're doing and maybe have done it before, and then you can get to a place where you're compliant and it's not costing you hundreds and thousands. Like I've heard horror stories of businesses spending lots and lots of money on trying to get this right in time for compliance, and it's like, you probably didn't need to go that crazy, but yeah, you use good judgment still, and as Shane said, get a lawyer. A real lawyer.
Which is not Shane, just to be clear. All right, guys. So the takeaway here is Nightwatch is slap. Okay.
Yeah. Is that what
it's not sus?
Does that mean good?
I think we're getting into the lingo.
It's not that it is slap. It slaps is the right way to say it. Yes.
Okay. Thank you
Yeah.
for that. Guys, the next topic I would like to cover here for just a few minutes, because it is a little bit time sensitive, is I'm halfway considering an investment into Bitterbrains.
Ooh.
And so Bitterbrains is the company behind like View School and a whole bunch of Mastering Nuxt and like a ton of these certification brands that you're probably familiar with. So yeah, it's like View School, Mastering Nuxt, the Nuxt Nation and View Nation conferences. Vue.js Forge, a whole bunch of these certification domains and brands, and they are going to be doing a equity crowdfunding round on Republic next
Ooh.
week. I think on Tuesday. So like the day this episode will be airing, or the day after this episode will be airing. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of curious to get your like thoughts on potentially investing into a company that I obviously have no direct involvement with other than being a prior customer, and whether or not, I don't know, like, is this something you guys would ever consider doing? I mean, I have obviously a pitch deck and videos, and they did a webinar on where the company's going to be trying to go. The main takeaway is they've been focusing a lot on Vue, Nuxt, and they're going to try to expand out into just the broader web developer or even just developer market. So tapping into Laravel, for example, is on their pipeline, and probably Rails and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I want, if nothing else here, I want you guys to put yourselves in the shoes of potentially being interested. And I'm not talking about like huge amounts of money. All right. I'm not putting $500,000 into this company. But if you were at all interested, what are the questions you would be asking to try to decide whether or not you'd put, you know, I don't know, small four figures into such a thing? Simon, any ideas?
At that sort of level of investment, the first question that I'm going to be thinking is, or yeah, the first thing I'm going to be thinking is, what's the reality of the return? Like it, nothing's ever guaranteed, but um, it's usually the more you put in, the more you stand to make. Right? There's obviously more risk for the money that you've set aside for that, but what else could that few $1,000s go to right now that's going to improve your life, or in an investment that's going to be maybe have a bit more guarantee of success? I'm all for taking a risk every now and then on something, but yeah, I don't know. I'm at this place right now where I probably wouldn't do that, but that's because I'm not super liquid right now.
Okay.
But yeah, my take would be essentially like, what's the history been like, and what's the what's their plan for growing this thing? Because it sounds to me like they've got to a good, I haven't heard of this business, but I've definitely heard of some of the things that they've produced. So they're
Right.
getting some good market penetration and all of that. And I've got this nagging thing in the back of my brain. Whenever a business goes for investment, it's usually a sign that they need something, and not that they're actually necessarily doing well. And they'll spin it as like, yeah, we're doing great and we want to like launch to the next level. But it's usually like, actually they're struggling and they need something to prop them up. And crowdfunding, I hate to say it, seems like it's well, we've really tried to go and get proper investors to do this, to give us some money. They've all kind of said no, and now we're turning to average Joes to part with smaller chunks of their cash to kind of build up our deficit, whatever. So that's me being super cynical. I don't know their business, and I think that's what would lead me to say, well, I would just need a really good understanding of their business before I sort of, for me right now, parted with even that level of cash.
Sure. Let me just give you a couple of quick figures. So in 2021, they did almost $1 million in revenue. 2022, they did 1.4 million. And in 2023, they did 2.8 million. Now, what I find to be like fairly interesting here, and I believe if you get in fairly early, they're talking about like a roughly $12 million valuation So we're talking like roughly 5-6x on revenue, which is fairly high. But I mean, they literally had 103% revenue growth from 2022 to 2023, which is really good. I do feel like, obviously I don't have a bunch of insider information on this, but I actually think that for this situation, the fact that they are doing equity crowdfunding and not seeking investors makes me think that they aren't in a situation where they desperately need this money. And I'm not really sure. I don't know how many employees they have or any other things, but like if you're doing 2.8 million in revenue with a few people and not a whole lot of other expenses, you probably are making a pretty decent amount of money. And I know a lot of that goes into the actual production of their video courses, which is their number one revenue provider. But I think that this simply represents a way for them to have what would be the right term? They can raise money and give effectively shares of the business that don't have any voting power to the community that has already been a part of the customer base that has gotten the business to where it is today. Whereas if you go and get investor money, you're giving up control of your business along with equity, like almost all of the time. And they just might not want to be doing that. They might have like what they're trying to do. And they simply are looking at this as, okay, well, we want to be getting into more video courses in other parts of the developer industry. So we simply need more people to try to do that. And that's why we need to raise a little, or we want to raise a little bit of money right now.
Did they go for investment from like institutional investors before this?
I do not believe so. I think the only other, I'm just trying to check from the pitch deck really quick. Yeah, I don't believe they have attempted. And I mean, really until very recently, like in 2017, which is the first year they have on this revenue chart, they did 58,000. And then in 2018, almost a 250,000, 2019, 400,000. So until like, the more recent years, I don't really think this would have been something that would have attracted major investment money. Could be wrong there. But yeah, Shane, you've got skeptical eyeballs too. So what's are you looking at the pitch deck and you have any thoughts?
These are my research. Right. These are my legal eyes.
He forgot his contacts in this morning.
Yeah. So
okay, go ahead. Because I do have a very related tangential topic I would love to get your opinion on really quick too, if we can get there quickly.
I believe, all right, so I look at it in a couple ways. One, if you're looking at investments, I try not to invest too much into things that I have any sentiment about, or too much sentiment about. That being said, I always say my best investment that I've ever made is into Laravel, and the time that I spent into learning Laravel and getting into it when I did, and how fortunate I was, and all that stuff. So if I'm like, for me, it's like you can look at it one of two ways. If you got a couple grand, few $1,000s that you want to put into something, and it's probably not going to lose money, right? Could it make you as much money as the best investment that you could find today? No. I don't think it's the best investment, but you're also not spending too much time in it. So there is some sentiment there. And I do think that Vue, I'm very anti-React, and I'm very pro Vue, and I have been for a very long time.
We either just gained a bunch of viewership or lost a bunch of viewership.
That's okay. That's okay.
Damn it,
you know
Shane.
what? Listen. If they're good React developers and they want to leave, there's the door. That's what I say. All two of the people that would listen to us,
I bet Nightwatch is React.
Is it?
It probably.
I know that.
React? I know that Cloud is.
I bet it is.
I know that Cloud is. And that's, so what? Okay, good for you. And you know how many jobs I have not been able to get because I don't want to learn React? A lot, and that's my prerogative. It is what it is. So I'm very pro Vue. I do appreciate Vue. I like the way that it works. So I look at it in a couple things. One is Vue going to increase its market penetration in general. And I think that because React is overwhelmingly supported by developers and the schools that are teaching JavaScript development, traditional universities, et cetera, as far as what I know, that's what most people with a CS degree come out understanding. If you understand JavaScript, you have a good understanding of React, which means there's room for Vue to grow. And what is the way that it's going to grow is through education, which is what most of these brands that I'm seeing here on the pitch deck are, or maybe all of them, right? So Level Up, Instant Dev, Vue, obviously Vue School, Mastering Nux. These are all education, and they're getting. So does this look like something that is a good investment? I would have to see more of the numbers. I would have to see more of what are they projecting for their like the next 5 years. What are their plans? Also, you said it grew from 1.4 to 2.8 in 1 year. What was the cause of that, and what are they projecting? So that was 2022, I think you said, to 2023. 2023 to 2024, where are they at already for this year? Because it's almost over. They should be able to tell you the numbers. What did they spend? Because they went from a list of like they've added one thing here, and then 2023 they added like 4 things, and now they've added like 6 things. What are they spending to get that? What is the return? What is the percentage of how much they're spending? What's the ROI? What are they, you know what I mean? So
What their margins?
How much, or did they just simply spend another $1 million in marketing? Maybe they added, an AdSense or whatever, to get in front of people. And so those numbers maybe are inflated, and maybe they did that knowing that they want to go after funding. So I have more questions. I'm skeptical, but I'm optimistic about Vue in general. And I'm optimistic about education in general. And so you marry those two, and I think that it's not a bad thing, but I would want to see more numbers.
Cool. Healthy skepticism and good investment or
I'm
good
getting old,
investor
man.
mindsets to be in. Here's an interesting statistic from the pitch deck that I was not expecting. Right. I already knew a little bit about BitterBrains. Vue School is huge. They talk about their revenue streams. I was very surprised that 47.5% roughly is coming from their video courses. Okay, I was expecting that to be the primary revenue stream. 42.5%. So again, almost half of their revenue stream, like the other massive chunk, is from developer certifications.
Wow.
That really surprised me. What I want to hear from you guys.
Charging for those?
Yeah. What I want to hear from you guys is, what are your opinions on the fact that Laravel does not currently have an officially supported certification program? There used to be an unofficial one that Taylor kind of let be in the wild, but it wasn't an official partnership or officially reviewed. And the final question, is there an opportunity here? Like, I feel like a really well thought out Laravel certification that could combine a lot of the stuff that's happening in the space right now could be really cool.
Mm.
Shane, what do you think?
Yeah. So for us to create one and it would be just like the same. So I paid $600 to get my Laravel certificate. I failed. Yeah. Like 7 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
There was an unofficial, but Laravel certification, whatever. It was like $600 to take the test.
Not really around anymore.
I studied for it and all they did really was give you a list and links to the documentation. There was not like any education on what they were going to test you on. And I think that was That would have helped. I failed. I have because they kept my money. They said, well, you can test anytime you want to get it again, but I don't see anybody talking about, asking about on any resumes, on interviews, anything. It never comes up. It's how much
Mm-hmm.
real world experience do you have? How many problems have you solved for other clients? How much money have you saved your other clients or made for them, etc.? How do you think about this problem? And to be honest, from my recollection, they were asking a lot of PHP specific questions and not so much Laravel specific questions. And I think that there's probably one of the reasons why it kind of fell off the map or is off the map is because it kind of got disjointed. There's a lot of like string or array wrappers now. And it's like, I don't need to know the PHP array stuff when I know the array ARR :
Right.
etc. stuff. So it's like, but what is it really doing under the hood? It's calling that, but I don't need to know that. I always say I'm a Laravel developer. I'm not a PHP developer. Do I know
Yeah.
PHP? Yes. Can I do PHP? Yes. But I do things in the Laravel way. Can I apply some of the skills that I have to a WordPress or whatever? Absolutely. But I stay away from. Should I have even said the W word on here? Um,
So,
so
so
yeah,
is your take that a certification for Laravel makes no sense,
unless Laravel is creating it themselves.
or just officially backed by them? Yeah.
Not even officially backed by them, but probably created and maintained by them.
I mean, what's the difference between
Well,
me
I guess the
making it, them
endorsement.
reviewing it, and saying like, yes, this is
So
what we
then are
want to
you
be
then
the
a
certification?
partner or an employee of Laravel? Right.
Whatever.
I think you need to.
Semantics.
No, absolutely not. I think you'd have to be a Laravel employee, and it's a Laravel. It's not they hired Steven's company to do this,
Okay.
and I think that's where the other people not went wrong, but for whatever reasons they've got, they did not feel at the time, at least, that the Laravel certification sites were, and this is probably honestly like, look, if Laracast came out with a certification program, people will buy that for sure. For sure, people will buy that. That's already a name that's support. It's probably, I mean, it's not equivalent to Laravel itself, but it brings a lot of reputation with it. So if I have a Jeffrey Wace, signature PNG on a PDF someplace that I
You
passed the
cynic.
course, right? Then that's going to mean something more than this other company, Stephen Who, no offense, but Stephen Who, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If it's directly from Laravel.com, then you've got something there. And
Yeah.
yes, if you created something and then found a job at Laravel with this, maybe. But
I don't think that's important. I think this could be exactly the same thing as like Caleb with Livewire, right? Completely separate thing, but they've now got livewire.laravel.com. So you would have
but what about
certification.laravel.com. And my idea is like you would create this certification program, but then you would try to partner with the Laravel Corporation and say,
but
look,
that's what they did.
this
That's
is
what the other company
complete.
did. And it
Well,
fell
then they did
apart.
it
So what would you
poorly. I don't think they ever got to the point where it was like, here, Taylor, here, Laravel
They
team.
absolutely did.
You
Absolutely
have,
did. They had Taylor's endorsement. His name was on their
Yeah.
paperwork. It
but they had
absolutely was endorsed by
100%
them.
control over what the certification was. Why would Taylor have let it be garbage at that point?
I don't know that it
Because
was garbage. I think it was just
that
not.
I don't think he expected it to turn into what it turned into.
Huh.
And there probably were some ground rules set, but it quickly became like a sour thing, and then it got
Okay.
disconnected. It was like
Maybe my
I
understanding is
think
just wrong. I didn't think that they ever got to the level where it was a genuine partnership. Taylor had complete veto control or audit control over the entire program to make sure that, like, yes, if Laravel were to take the time to do this via an employee, this is what it would look like. I thought it was basically just they threw it out there, and then Taylor basically said, yeah, we'll let them use the Laravel trademark. And I'm not going to exclusively say I don't endorse this. It's just sort of like
well, they
not
had a
quite the same thing.
subdomain and everything. It was like
Okay, wow.
Livewire in
I
that
just,
sense.
I guess
But
I wasn't.
the thing was, like at the time, I mean, we're talking 6 or 7, maybe even 8
Right.
years ago,
Okay.
and the Laravel, what was it even then? I don't know, Inc.
So this
LLC.
is
It
it.
wasn't.
I'm reading this now. Laravel certificate program was initially launched in 2017 at Laracon
Okay.
EU to show
Okay.
you know Laravel and have passed the test of proving it. And this is on Laravel News, January 4th, 2023. Today, Taylor, and there's a link to, and I opened it up, I haven't read it yet, announced a series of tweets that Laravel has discontinued its official partnership with Laravel certification program.
Yeah.
So they were officially partnered with Laravel for this, and they
Okay.
withdrew that for whatever reason.
So it wasn't. I think at the time, the Laravel business wasn't set up to take care of something like this. And the priorities were definitely elsewhere. And then if you fast forward to now, I think and this is where my argument around this comes in is I don't think it's something that you perhaps should think about doing, because it either will be something that the Laravel organization chooses to do. I actually doubt that they will, because I don't think it's something that Taylor's that interested in generally. But the other thing is, Bitter Brains and whoever else, Laracas, they're going to do this. And they're already well established in the teaching space. So it's just like a natural extension for that. And I think if you just come in with, you've got to tackle both problems at the same time. You've got to have a really good teaching reputation
Right.
and platform, and you've got to have a really good certification platform. You've got to have people who can manage both of those things really, really well. I just think that's a huge investment. I don't think you're going to turn it around and like, I can build a SaaS in a couple of weeks, and suddenly you've got a platform that Laravel says, yep, seal of approval, you can have the logo, you can have the trademark, and you can be an
Sure.
official partner. You're going to have to be a really well established player in that space already. And yeah, it's just you're then automatically years behind the potential competition. And I think the reality is that potential competition will be there very quickly in the next few years, if they see there's any value in doing this with Laravel developers. And they've been bitten once, maybe twice shy. Maybe certification just isn't something that the current crop of Laravel devs will worry too much about. Maybe in 5 years the next generation will, but
This may be something that I can see that this has some value. Having a Laravel certificate has value if it's officially from Laravel.com. I have to keep reemphasizing that. And if Taylor has a bucket of money and is running out of ideas for other apps to create, this may be something that he jumps into, because there is a lot of money in education, period. If there was, now there's already laracast.com, and I don't think Taylor will try to create some education outside of that. But if he worked directly with Laracast somehow to create some free something or other, or I don't know, like that gets a little gray and a little confusing as to like how would he then make that money. He doesn't want to step on Jeffrey's toes, I don't think. um
I agree.
But to have just the test and the officially supported Laravel certificate, that may be something that maybe they eventually consider.
I agree with you
I,
guys. I'm kind of curious, Shane, as somebody that took an AWS certification from non AWS, why do you think it has to be a Laravel employee that made the test? Why would
Because
you have
somebody
spent
already
money
tried
for a
this.
cert?
Wait. What do you mean? I
You
got the education from like there's no officially supported AWS classroom, right, to learn the stuff.
okay?
And maybe there's lots of documentation, and they say this is for this test. Here's all the documentation you'll have to read through. But somebody just took that and made video courses because that's easier for me to digest.
I see. I think I
But I took
misunderstood
the
you. So the
test at a state location, like an officially, like it was an official, where my AWS, I'm sorry, the Laravel certificate test I did on my laptop, and they were like recording my face the whole time,
right.
making sure I'm not using another computer to look up things.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I got you. But so the AWS cert was an actual AWS cert, not an a cloud
Correct.
guru
No, no,
cert.
no, 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 no. That's
I
just where I took
misunderstood you.
the
Okay.
education. Sorry.
Cool. Cool. All right.
I
Well,
just want to
interesting,
touch,
guys.
sorry, one
Go
other
ahead.
little thing, just because I was sort of shaking my head when Shane, you were saying some of the stuff, because I think I was pretty clear, like in my head, I've got Taylor definitely said this would be something that he didn't do. And I've gone like digging through Twitter, and there is a tweet. He explicitly says, and I quote from the 4th of January, 2023, in reply to somebody else. Obviously, this stance could have changed, but he says, I will not be building or sick, because he says of, endorsing any certification program in the future. That's it.
Period.
And yeah, I just kind of feel like I
Nail in the
can't
coffin.
see that changing very soon.
Okay.
And that was only, almost 2 years ago now. But um,
It makes sense to me
yeah,
too. Things change so much. What does a getting certified today versus 5 years from now really prove or mean? Or, like it's just you're paying, $1,000 for a sticker,
Yeah.
when the real value is what have you done? Show me that you've done something. You know what I mean? And not that you can pass a test, because some people,
yeah.
they can pass tests very easily and don't have any real world experience, and vice versa.
So do you guys think that, basically all of the money that Bitter Brains has been making off of these developer certifications is snake oil?
Ooh.
Hot take. Here we go. Social media clip. Here we come.
Shane, you go. You go first.
maybe
I literally recorded a podcast yesterday with Leah T Codes, who, math teacher turned JavaScript developer, now getting into the Laravel space. She did a JavaScript boot camp. It's what landed her first job. And I asked her in the podcast, like, did you do any certifications post boot camp to try to have something that is to some extent of officiality, to verify that like what you got out of that boot camp and what you can now do for your first job is legit, since you don't have any work experience of note. And to support your guys' point, she said, no, I don't have any. It never came up in any interviews. And so this is the interesting part to me. Like, how are people spending, you would assume, millions of dollars on these certifications if they're not really coming up in the job spec?
Go ahead.
This speaks to this whole segment of the education sector at large. Not just tech certifications. Education is really valuable,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. But the thing that you should get from education is that it's teaching you the ability to teach yourself, because that's what you're going to have to do when the education stops. You
Ooh,
have to do that.
can you say that
Like,
again? That was a good one, Simon.
education is there to teach you how to teach yourself, because you have to do that once it stops. And
Yeah.
it can't go on forever, despite, the thousands and thousands of people who try to just stay in education. It cannot go on forever, because it's a cost. It's a cost to society. It's a cost to individual people's families, bank balances, because it requires people, real people with real minds and real time and their own families and costs to do good education. So there has to be a limit to that, which is why we don't go to school beyond 16, 18, 23, 4, 5, because it just doesn't really make sense, generally speaking, to keep on doing that. And if you can get that out of education, then I think you're gonna be golden. Like, you've just got to apply yourself going forward. I just got to keep learning. whatever it is that I want to learn, I now have the tools to be able to do that. Um, the exams, results, grades, certifications, all of that is only as good as the people who say, I think that that means something. And that just varies. Like, it varies from country to country, it varies from company to company. A lot of people just don't put that much weight in it anymore. Like, even university education, it's like, oh yeah, it's cool, you achieved something really good with your 2-1, so
Yeah. Yeah.
can you do the job? And the answer is often, right now, really no. I still need to learn how to do the job. Excuse me. So I've, when you're going into the workplace as a complete fresh person, you've got to be open to, I've still got to learn. I don't really know what I'm doing at this point. And
Right.
that's it. Same if you're a career like if you 30 something, 40 something, and you're shifting careers, even if you've done the boot camps and you've done all of the learning, you don't know what it's like in the work environment day to day yet. So the bit that you've got to do is more learning. And sorry to say, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And there's no amount of certifications that are going to get you past that. So once we're kind of over that as a society, I think we'll be moving on from certifications in general.
Okay.
But until then, yeah, you've just got to do the best that you can do with what you've got. And if a certification is the thing that makes you feel confident in your ability to go and do something, or the organization specifically says you must have this certification, then by all means, go and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a W take in my book. Shane, final thoughts.
I don't have formal education. I don't have a degree, and I've always been proud of the fact that I've taught myself. I say I taught myself. I've had a lot of educators along the way, but I've found, and the thing that I think separates somebody from, excuse me, from being successful and someone not being successful is their drive. And if you have that drive, it doesn't matter if you have the means or the desire to go to a traditional college, university, whatever, to get that degree, or if you have that drive and you're applying it to Googling to find all of the answers to the questions that you have so that you become more valuable to your next employer or even yourself and your family and your future. uh, it's the drive that takes you there, because I've seen so many people spend their $250,000 on an education. They don't have a drive, or they go and they get their real estate license or even their lawyer, whatever it is, the law degree, pass the bar, and they're flipping burgers because they don't have the drive or the know-how or the desire to actually manage their life and their business the way that it needs to be to become successful. They just kind of rest their whatever it is on, oh, I'll go to a college and I will get a degree or I'll get the certification and then all my answers will be solved. And that's never the case. That's only a means to an end, and it's not if you don't take yourself seriously enough to push for it. As far as view school or bitter brains, and why 42% versus 49% is coming from certifications, I think that probably a lot of developers or junior developers are seeing Vue and wanting to learn. I can definitely see the class education part of it having a big percent. And it's like, well, if I could spend just maybe it's in their marketing and they're just saying, look, for another $10 you get their certificate, and then they're saying now we're 40 something percent of our revenue is coming from certification, when they're getting the same education component. That, like, right, they're not just paying for the certificate and the test. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm assuming that they get some video coursing and education, and then they get the test at the end, and maybe it's in the marketing and the way that they're proposing the offer, just a video course or video course with certification, and they're marking that up as a win for certifications. So I don't know.
Okay. Cool. Nice. I think we'll say certs are sometimes sus. and wrap things up there. Maybe in next episode, since we're not going to be able to get into it today, we can talk about if we don't want to be using certifications to an extreme extent to determine the viability of an applicant for a job, what are the things we can be asking to try to get a good sense of where they fall and their value proposition to a business? Maybe the technical challenges we'd like to present to them, or design system interview questions.
I'd love to talk
I think
about
that's going to do it for today, guys.
Real
Shane.
quick.
Okay, let's hear it.
So we did get an email I want to mention on this episode.
Oh, yes.
Feel free to write into us, everybody. Our email address is thebucketpodcast3@gmail.com. It is on the YouTube, and it's on, I think it's on, if not, we'll make sure that it's on the transistor stuff. So we asked a question last week, and we got an answer from Mr. Craig Anderson. He says, first, who is this guy that Shane is doing work for these days? He sounds super awesome. Second,
W-Tech.
Yep. Second, you asked about good interview questions. Here's my favorite. He linked to this quote from Mitch Hedberg, a stand-up comedian that has passed. The question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? The answer, celebrating the 5th anniversary of you asking me this question.
Nice. Nice. Oh,
and on that note, you want me to close it? You want me to do my thing?
Yeah, Shane, let's do it.
All right. So if you liked any part of this podcast, this episode today, chances are someone that you might also know would as well. And so please share this with your friends, your community, your neighbors, your loved ones, your grandma. You never know what she might laugh at or agree or disagree with. Any of these hot takes, it might stir up some really charged technical conversations at Thanksgiving coming up soon, in America at least.
I love it.
Know Laravel.
Say again?
Absolutely love it.
Your grandma might know Laravel.
Yeah.
She should if she doesn't, right?
Definitely.
She's got the certification, but not the job.
Thank you for a riveting discussion this week. Guys.
Yeah, it was really good.
See you in another week.
Ciao.
Peace.